When a friendship goes wrong, when a relationship becomes strained, is it my fault? Yes, sometimes. Is it their fault? Yes, sometimes. Is it someone else's fault? Yes, sometimes. But the question is, do I want this relationship restored? And if so, what is the best thing that I can do now? Now, the magazine Agony Aunt, I think I'm probably showing my age. I don't know if they have such a thing anymore. Anyway, you know what I mean by that. The magazine Agony Aunt will say one thing, the person you follow on social media. Notice the person you follow, not the person I follow. I don't know what social media is. They will have something to say. Your best friend will have something to say. Lots of people will have lots of things to say as to what do I do about this relationship. Let the friendship go. They're not worth it. Let the issue go. It's not worth it. No, confront them, confront yourself, sort the problem on, all sorts of conflicting advice you will receive. But what does our God have to say? Probably not what we expect him to say. 3 headings to get us thinking. When a relationship goes wrong, bridging the gap, promises made. We're looking this morning at Jacob's dream of a staircase between heaven and earth. Jacob falls into a deep sleep. He sees a staircase. He sees angels going up and down. He sees God. He hears God. He speaks to God. But we're Genesis 28, so a quick recap of how we have got to this point. You know it so well. Genesis chapter 1, God made everything out of nothing. And he made humankind to be his ideal walking partner. Genesis 3, men and women didn't want to walk with God. They wanted to walk on their own. Genesis 4, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. Cain murders Abel. More murders follow. Genesis 6, Noah. God says we're going to have a reset. That devastating flood, one man, Noah, and his family, they were rescued. They started again, but very quickly things went downhill. Finally, Genesis 12, Abraham, God makes 3 promises. Abraham, I'm going to turn you into a family. Secondly, I'm going to give you a country. Thirdly, and you and your descendants will be a huge blessing to the whole earth. Abraham and his wife Sarah, they remain childless for decades more, but Isaac is born, who has the terrible 2, Esau and Jacob, fighting with each other even within mum's womb. Esau, the eldest, he had the birthright, the birth responsibility as the elder to lead the family, steward the resources. But no, you may remember he was more interested in hunting and shooting and fishing and a plate of stew. Jacob, a weasel, a trickster, saw his opportunity. I am getting to Genesis 28. I'm almost there. How did Esau feel? Well, we're told, just cast your eyes back to the previous chapter, will you? Chapter 27, verse 41, same page. This was written just prior to Dad Isaac's death, and the author tells us exactly how Esau felt. Esau held a grudge, verse 41, against Jacob, because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob. What's he saying? He's saying, I am going to quietly seethe until Dad dies, and when he does, my manipulative, thieving brother Jacob will pay. He will pay with his life. We've got to Genesis 28. What does Jacob do? He runs. He runs for his life. Those two towns mentioned, Beersheba, Haran, 500 miles apart. He runs. My first heading, when a relationship goes wrong. Verse 10, Jacob left Beersheba in a hurry and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. Jacob's relationship with his brother has gone badly wrong. Jacob is alone, Jacob is terrified, Jacob is exhausted, Jacob is in a complete mess. He falls asleep. Verse 12, he had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. What is going on here, my second heading, a gap is bridged. The gap between Jacob and Esau? No. The gap between Jacob and God. The gap between earth and heaven. What sort of gap? A physical gap? Yes, a physical gap. God is in heaven, Jacob is on earth. A moral gap? Yes, a moral gap. God is good and true and reliable. Jacob is a trickster, a manipulator, a grabber. The relational gap? Yes, the relational gap. Over the previous chapters, there's been much mention of his father Isaac's relationship with the Lord, but none of Jacob's. This dream. Let me just flag this up for you. This dream is a big deal in Bible history. So much of a big deal that Jesus refers to it. That was our second reading. What happens in this dream? God comes down. Yes, that is accompanied by angels going up and down, but the momentous thing is that God comes down to bridge the gap between him and Jacob. I really hope bells are ringing in your ears. God came down. Is that not what we have been celebrating? Oh, thank you. Some of you are smiling at me. You've got it. That's what we've been celebrating over these last few weeks, isn't it? And so we think to ourselves, could this event here have the future event in Bethlehem in mind? Hold on to that thought, because first of all, we need to go backwards even further. We need to go backwards to Eden, and we remember, oh yes, God came down then. God coming down to the garden to walk and talk with his people. Is this again happening in Genesis 28? And for Jacob, is God coming down a dream? Or is it more than that? Surely we have to say both. Because he sees God, he hears God, he understands God. And then verse 16, he says, when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place on earth, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This place, earth, is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Oh, Jacob has a dream of heaven. We may initially think, no, he doesn't, we realize. He has a dream of earth. with God present. And then he realized that this dream points to reality. Surely the Lord is in this place and I was not aware of it. He's here, Jacob realizes. And I thought that God lived in heaven. I thought that God just had a house up there in heaven. I thought God was distant. I thought he was remote. I thought that he made the earth, saw mankind make a mess of it, and was now watching them lie in the bed that they had made. A dream of God coming down, making his home here, and that somehow being the gateway, the means of entry to heaven. And as I read and I ponder this, I cannot stop myself making connections with Jesus. But am I making these connections up? Am I imagining them? No, I'm not, because that reading from John's Gospel, when Jesus calls Nathanael, what happens there? Jesus amazes Nathanael because he knows everything about him. But then he says, Nathanael, you haven't seen anything yet. And then Jesus says, truly, truly, and that's one of Jesus' phrases to say, I'm going to say something huge here. Truly, truly, Nathanael, I tell you, you will see, here it comes, heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on me, the Son of Man. Now that sounds a bit obscure to us, but then no one would have missed the connection with Genesis 28. What is Jesus saying? He's saying, I am the staircase. I'm the one who's come to bridge the gap. I'm the one who has come to bridge the gap between earth and heaven. I have, John chapter 1, I have come down from heaven to walk and talk and relate to my people. My work on the cross will solve the sin gap. And my gift of the Spirit will solve the being present with all my people all the time gap. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, just like Jacob, and I will give you rest. This is amazing, isn't it? Genesis 28, we are, what are we? We're half a centimetre into our Bibles, and we already are seeing someone who is experiencing something of what followers of Jesus would one day experience in all its fullness. And so what did the Lord say to this alone, this terrified, this exhausted, this completely messed up Jacob? This Jacob who had the most toxic of relationships with his brother Esau. Well, this may come as a surprise, but he simply repeats, verses 13, 14, he simply repeats the promises he has made to Grandpa Abraham. The promise of a land in which to live, offspring, family, a massive family, and you will be a blessing to so many people. But verse 15, the thing Jacob so needs to hear, verse 15, the words I so need to hear, and I suspect, verse 15, the words you so need to hear. What does he say? He says, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I have promised you. Just let me clarify something. Just let me home in on something. The land. Why is the land so important? Why is land such a big deal in the Old Testament? Because land is where we make our home. And the land that we desire is the land where we can live safely. A land ruled by a good and righteous king. Land in the Bible is always looking forward to the ultimate land, the new creation, Eden restored, the new heaven, the new earth. And so in the light of what we now know, that Jesus is the ultimate staircase, Jesus is the living staircase, in the light of what you now know about Jesus, let me read verse 15 to you. Let me reread it to you, changing it slightly. He is saying to you, he's saying, verse 15, I am with you and I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you home to heaven. That is what he's saying to us. I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you. Extraordinary, isn't it? Those promises to Jacob, to Abraham, they're promises to you, follower of Jesus. The promise of an eternal land, heaven. The promise of being part of a massive family that he has adopted you into. The promise that both here in this life and in the life to come, you will be an unimaginably great blessing to others. Jesus has done it. Jesus has bridged the gap between you and God. And so those promises, they are for you. And so then my third heading, promises made. Yes, the Lord has made promises to Jacob, but we now see Jacob, verse 20, then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey that I'm taking and will give me, in my context, food to eat and clothes to wear so that I return safely to my father's household, if he's going to do that, wow, then the Lord will be my God. And this stone that I've set up as a pillar will be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. Now, there's much here that we could note, but the central point is that Jacob, for the very first time, is saying, wow, if the Lord has made these very great promises to me, to be with me, not just in a dream, but to be with me constantly, if he has promised to be with me, to watch over me, to provide for me, to take me safely home, if he's made those promises, then, end of verse 21, then the Lord will be my God. I'm going to make the Lord my God, not just my dad's God. The most momentous decision anyone will ever make is the one that Jacob makes in verse 21. To say to the Lord, I want you to be my Lord. I want you to rule over me. I want your presence. Yes, I want your power. Yes, I want your peace. But crucially, I want your rulership. The end of verse 22 speaks of worship. And perhaps unexpectedly, this was a surprise to me. I didn't expect to see it here. It speaks of giving. Jacob is relinquishing control of his money to the Lord. What's the logic? God is generous. He loves us to be generous. What does generous look like? The figure 10% comes up again and again and again in our Bibles. Many of us are persuaded that is a great starting point in our thinking. And wow, if I have made the Lord Lord of my money, that says something, doesn't it? What are we seeing here? We see that Jacob is captivated by the person that he has rightly made his God. Bridging the gap, promises made, but my starting point, Jacob's starting point, was when a relationship goes wrong. And here, I think, is the massive shock. It seems that God's starting point when a relationship goes wrong is not our relationship with the person we're out of sorts with. It's our relationship with him, the Lord. Him bridging the gap between us and him. Him causing us to rehear the promises he makes to us. Him causing us to make vows, renew our vows to him. And sure enough, over the coming chapters, we see how Jacob's unfolding relationship with God impacts his relationship with his brother Esau. That is unexpected, isn't it? God's starting point for a relationship that has gone sour between us is not our relationship with each other, it's my relationship with the Lord. But perhaps that does make more sense than I might first think. If I have a secure relationship with the God of the universe, is that not bound to affect the way I approach that person who has hurt me? That person who I've hurt? That person who, quite frankly, wishes I were dead? The God who has been so generous to me, who was dying to bridge the gap, play on words, who did die to bridge the gap, doesn't that impact my longing to bridge the gap with the God who I have sinned against, who looks for me to repent? And so my attitude towards the person where the rift is down to me, and the God who promises his presence, his provision, that person who does hate me, who does seek to make my life miserable, given who my God is, ultimately they can't touch me, can they? Ultimately he will triumph. I'm half apologetic here, but I'm not really, because I'm conscious. Am I giving you easy answers? Am I giving you a formula to follow? No, I'm not. Because mending relationships is costly and complex. Look to the lengths Jesus went. But here's the promise. As we seek the Lord's wisdom in respect of our relationships that go wrong, he has promised that Jesus has bridged the gap between him and you. He's promised that you are part of his eternal, precious family. He's promised that your life will continue for eternity, and comparatively soon you will be with him in paradise for eternity. And that both now and then, through your relationships, and I would say especially through the tricky ones, he will cause you to be a great blessing to many. Jesus has bridged the gap between you and God, and that changes everything. It can even change the most difficult relationship you have. And probably that needs thinking through further.